up the states a bit. Georgia, the Georgia DOT is saying that
Everybody, sit tight for me. I'm still gathering information. So if you could sit tight, just give me a couple minutes. This is the latest information. It is a Cat 2 now. So hang on, and I'll play some music here. I'm still trying to get things all gathered up for y'all. Be with you in a bit. Okay, folks, thanks for joining me. We'll turn the music off. Now, you see I added a couple more things on here. It is a Cat 2 hurricane, 105 mile per hour wind, and getting stronger. It's starting to really look impressive on satellite. 977 millibar, so that has dropped down. Was 986 earlier. And it slowed down. I was hoping this wouldn't happen. Hey, thanks for the host, Jen. It's moving northwest still, but only at 12 miles per hour. This is the slowest that it's gotten in the last few days. Now, the other two things I added there, the FloridaDisaster.org and the ready.ga.gov for people in Florida and Georgia. This is your evacuation page that you want to go to. Hey, Southpaw, Michelle, and everybody else. Yeah, y'all been scrolling up my chat. Yeah, it was only a Cat 1, 85 mile per hour. Now, they've been flying in this thing all day. I'll have to check that out, Skywarn. So anyway, that's the two evacuation zone pages that you will want to check out if you live in Florida or Georgia. There's been some other major changes as well, and I'm still gathering information. This is not just as simple as going to the Hurricane Center, copying their information and giving it to you. I'm gathering from several different sources. And trying to get you all the information that you want to know. Hey, Raven. And as you can see here, I'm still looking up pages. To do air recon. I get this. They've already flown like 15 missions into this thing in the last 2 days. That is not the page I wanted. At this point, and I'll show you the cone here in a bit, the whole cone has shifted south. Okay, we still have, looks like we got 2 aircraft still out there. Look at the track that this guy's been doing. That's one plane. There's the other plane's track. Yeah, I can imagine, Juju, that the grocery stores all down there, you know, they've been getting packed. That's the reason why I've been saying for days, do not wait. Get your stuff, and, you know, well, you can't do it now, but most likely, but you should have gotten your stuff today. So let's get to the cone right off the bat. Latest from National Hurricane Center. I'll blow her up here. You can see how it's no longer, the cone is no longer going into Georgia like it did. And now the Florida Keys are in this. It's still uncertain. I mean, this bubble is huge. It covers the whole state of Florida from north to south. Now, one thing I want you to pay attention to is the closeness of that dot and that dot. This is looking really bad, folks, because they've got it now at a Cat 4, 140 mile per hour, and some of the models are suggesting Cat 5. Yes, this has the potential of going Cat 5. But it's going to be a real strong Cat 4 now. Now those lines, look how close they are. That means the thing's really slowing down. And I'll show you, it's still going to be, after it makes landfall here, that's still going to be a Cat 1, even after it's on land. 75 mile per hour winds, that's still a Cat 1. It's the low end, but you're going to possibly have 90 mile per hour wind gusts. And this is for 8 o'clock at night on September 3rd, which is Tuesday. Notice the time frame shifted a little bit as well. Now we'll go back to this line. This is where 140 mile per hour wind. Hey, thanks for the new follow. And look at the wind gust possibility. 165 miles per hour. Wow. And this is for September 2nd, 8 o'clock at night. So a whole 24 hours that it's going to sit. Somewhere in those two dots. Hey, thanks for the follows, guys. So it's a Cat 4, a strong Cat 4 right there. It's still a Cat 1 right there. And that's only 24 hours from a Cat 4, but still being a Cat 1. 24 hours, this thing is going to be over land. And pushing all those devastating winds, water, definitely going to see power outages. I do have a website for power outages that I'll share with people. I'm going to have to start making a list now of all the different websites that people will want to look at. Now, there hasn't been any model changes since earlier. There's not any new runs for me to look at, but we can cover them anyway. But earlier I did notice that the Euro looked like it had pushed a little bit further south. Oh, there's going to be tons of storm surge. Now we'll look at the GFS and look down here in the bottom right corner. That's Dorian. Now I showed this 6 hours ago. And here it comes. Now there the eye is over land. This is on Tuesday morning. Or no, excuse me. Yeah, it would be about 2 o'clock in the morning. This one right here, this is 8 o'clock at night on Tuesday. The eye is just coming on land. Now this is liable to change, so this is not written in stone yet. You can see how this thing's going to hug the coast now, where this morning it was going over Georgia and meandering around. But now they've got it scooting out at the sea. And there is a potential on the GFS that it'll go up north and maybe make landfall a second time. Do I really trust the GFS? Not really. Not yet. Now here's the European model. And like I say, these haven't changed since my last broadcast. And here comes Dorian. Interesting. Maybe this has changed. Now right there, it's going to be about southern Florida. And then it's got it taken a little bit of a right turn. and then going up. Also following the coastline pretty much. But it's still uncertain at that point. Still uncertain at that point. So hurricane hunters are still out there. Actually, it looked like they might be returning, both of them. But I won't get to see their updated data go into an advisory until 5 o'clock in the morning. So for those that are just joining, Hurricane Dorian is now a Cat 2 hurricane, and this is as of the 11 o'clock advisory, which just came out. Winds 105, moving northwest at 12, with pressure down to 977. Now this is the lowest pressure that we've had on this thing. Last night, it was like 986, I believe it was. Then went up to 991 early this morning on the 5 a.m. And then earlier it went back down to 986, and now it's at 977. Now remember that the lower the pressure, the stronger that this thing is going to be. And just to give you something here, this green and red tail, this is the past track that this thing has taken so far. Now the other day we were thinking it was going to come over here over the can't even talk straight, Dominican Republic. Then we thought, no, it's going to go right over the middle of Puerto Rico. Nope. Upper level low, steered it, and it went away from it. But that is the past track of how this thing came to be. Way out here, when these green dots, that's when it was just a tropical wave. So let's go ahead and look at the satellite, and I'll kind of go over what I'm seeing. It's still been battling with a second eye wall. Oh, I've been having a bad time talking all day. I think I got too much going through my head. That, and I'm tired. Which, by the way, I got more sleep. So, y'all that were worried about that, don't worry. I pretty much slept since my last broadcast. No, Nathan canceled. He's not going down because he has to be flying back by Monday night. So he's not going to get to go unless something drastic changes with the timing. If they move the time frame up, then and it speeds back up, then he'll have a chance to go. Otherwise, he's not. For his job, they have a blackout time, and they can't take any vacation. This is their busiest time of the year. It's busiest time of the year. So I'm going to zoom in on this. This main center is really blowed up and gotten stronger. I wished I could see the visible satellite. I'll have to wait till in the morning. Well, I'll take that back. I can kind of look at it through a website. Take a look at this. See what this isn't quite as good as actually seeing daylight. Gotta load up all the frames here. Yeah, this is not near as good as having actual sunlight to show the shadows. Now I want to go ahead, see if it'll let me. That's lightning. And this is fairly current, so it's not old. The one nice thing about the new GOES satellite, 16 east and 17 west, I get updates really quickly. But there you can see the intensity. Now let's go back and look at the infrared. What causes hurricanes? Tropical storms are formed. Mostly our tropical storms come off the west coast of Africa as just a wave or a storm. Then over the warmer waters, they get a lot of fuel, and they get stronger and stronger and stronger, and then they typically start to rotate, and they actually turn into a heat pump, pretty much, and they'll have these outer bands, and some of that will be inflow and some will be outflow. And what will happen is you'll have a low pressure center at the surface, and as this thing builds up, you'll have a high pressure system over top of it. And so it's constantly doing this number. And it just recycles itself. It draws in more moisture, warm air. Now you get south of the equator, they're not called hurricanes, but it's the same thing except for they rotate in the opposite. They go clockwise instead of counterclockwise. And there's a whole lot of more scientific crap that I could sling at you. And I don't like doing that. Of how these things form, why they form. But that's basically it. Now, one thing that really differs between severe storms and tropical storms is, this is only one factor, but tropical storms don't like wind shear. You got these big thunderstorms that's going up, blowing up, and circulating. You got upper level winds come along. If they're real strong, they'll start hitting the top and sheared it off. And that's one thing that's been hurting this thing over the last 24 hours. It was all eastern loaded. But it'll also take the core, the eye, and tilt it. Hurricanes don't like that. It's a little hard for me to measure it. I can't measure with this program, and it's not near a radar site yet that I can actually do a point-to-point measurement. I'd say roughly, well, it's hard to tell because there's actually two different eye walls in there. Now, earlier, you would see a eye pop up on this. Let's see if I can find one. And it was only roughly about 5 miles wide. And the other one was somewhere around 25 wide. But at this point, it's a little hard for me to diagnose and tell it. Now that it's Cat 2 and getting stronger, tomorrow I would expect it will get a well-defined eye. But notice this storm, it's still a little elongated, but, well, I don't want to do that. Thank you for the new follow. Before, remember I said it was eastern loaded. because a lot of the thunderstorms was over here. That's because there's been an upper level low over there, and with the winds circulating counterclockwise, it was blowing the tops off over to the side like that. No, actually, a lot of times it didn't really do it that much last night. But a lot of times, what'll happen is they'll actually get stronger overnight, and the reason why is the warm waters wanting, all that warm air and warm waters at the surface wanting to rise, and then the tops are cooling off even cooler as the sun goes down, and so it really wants to, start that cycling phase, and a lot of times they'll get stronger overnight. It won't cap them. Now, the one thing I don't like here, and I'll do it in red, is this open slot. It's not as bad as it was earlier. That's where it's pulling in dry air. Dry air is another thing that really kills it. Well, just like a tornado, tornado is only a center part of a rotating supercell, and everything, in that tornado, starts sucking in dirt and whatever, and spinning, tighter and tighter. Imagine a person on a skating rink, and they'll start spinning, and then they pull their arms in and they get spinning faster. Hey, thanks for the sub. Well, as that core is spinning and getting faster and faster, tighter and tighter, it's making everything else try to draw into it. And so the outside spins with it. Sort of like the way we do around the sun. But we still have this dry air. Now, earlier, this dry air feeding was down here. So that's looking good as far as that goes. This low on the western side of it is moving away, so it's not blowing it off to the east near as much. So the main core is right here. And so everything else is getting drawn into it and making everything else spin around the center of it. I'm really starting to look at these outer bands and how much stronger that they're getting as it's rotating. But I really like that center now is really looking symmetric or round, equally round. So that tells me she's definitely intensifying. Yes, it is a cat too. Look at water vapor and see what's going on. Let me load all the frames up. I remember that upper level low was on the northwest side last night. Now it's centered upper level low is about right in there. So that's helping steer it, push it. What's keeping it going northwest. Now eventually this low is supposed to move away. Then at that point this weekend there's going to be this high pressure that's going to build up here. Now remember, high pressure rotates clockwise. That's what's going to make this thing turn and go towards Florida. There's kind of going to be a squeeze play between this low and high. Remember, ain't what I wanted. I'm still trying to wake up, folks. Okay, we'll pause it here. So the high is going to try to steer it and push it that way. This low is trying to push it that way. So that's what's going to make it do this turn. How far away did that low move? Unknown quite yet. That's a steering mechanism. How weak is that high or how strong? That's going to determine whether it hits southern Florida or goes further north. So I'm trying to catch up here on the chat. So that's some of the uncertainties. Also, there's going to be this trough that's going to be sliding down from the Midwest. Now, a trough is a area of low pressure. So once this thing gets on to Florida, that could possibly help pull it north, as well as the spin of this high could make it start going in between them there. So we got to kind of keep an eye on this over the next couple days. How high or how strong is the high going to be? And where's that low, that upper level low, where's it going to go? And that's what's taken the models a while to figure out. And that's the reason why that cone is the way it is. When you get up in here, and it gets wider and wider, and there's a lot of uncertainty the wider that thing gets. And they do go through past historical data and figure that in to the model runs when they make this cone. Now they'll take the models, the different parts of the Euro and the GFS, and I know like the Euro, they'll actually rerun those like 51 times. That's when you start getting all the spaghetti models, because they run it multiple times. They'll change one little thing. Okay, what if this high does this? And then they'll do a model run. And they'll change it. Okay, what if it does that? What this low going to do? Does it do this? They'll do another model run. And each time that line keeps moving. Yeah, it's got a good potential of making Cat 5. I mean, good Lord, it's going to be Cat 4, a strong Cat 4. Here's your Saffir-Simpson scale. As you can see, Cat 4 is 130 to 156. This thing gets 157 mile per hour. It'll be a Cat 5. Yes, it did, Skywarn. The whole cone there dropped. Earlier, the top of it was going into Georgia, and it just barely had the southern edge of Florida. Now it's scooted down, and we can't leave the Keys, the Florida Keys, out of the question. There are some models that are suggesting that it's going to come down here and hit the Keys. And it's done it before. There's been other hurricanes that has taken this similar track that they thought was going to hit the east coast of Florida, and it ended up hitting the Keys. If you know people down there in Florida, or if you live there, or Georgia, be sure and give them those two websites that I got right there. FloridaDisaster.org, ready.ga.gov. Well, thanks, Mons. Yeah, I want to be accurate. I want to give the best, most accurate information. I don't want to hype this up. It's one thing about the Weather Channel I got to be careful of, because they will tend to, I wouldn't say over exaggerate, but they get a little hyped. Now, this is something to get hyped about. I mean, it's definitely going to be a dangerous storm, whether it's a Cat 4 or Cat 5. And like I was saying a little bit ago, I don't have it on my phone. Here, take a screenshot. I'll put it back up. Take a picture. Or if somebody wants to clip that so people can come back and look at it. However, but if you take a screenshot, or you can go to NOAA and look up this scale. That's, look on the bottom right hand corner. Hey, thanks for the new follow, man. This did come from NOAA. Hey, thanks, Beck. I didn't have the website handy. Oh, you talking about my hurricane? My namesake? Did a lot of flooding. Pissed a lot of people off. So they named it right, because I tend to do that. So anyway, like I was saying, write down these two websites if you either live in Florida, Georgia, or know somebody that lives down there. Those are evacuation zone websites. Top one's for Florida. The ready.ga is for Georgia. And I'm sure there is a possibility that South Carolina and North Carolina gets added to this, because like I was showing you the models a little bit ago, it very well could turn and head right up the coast. Now remember, as this thing comes in, where's the worst stuff going to happen? If it follows this black line here, I got to switch. Still tired. Here we go. Now, it follows this black line, the center of the cone. The worst damage, most likely, will be in this area. The reason why is because the direction of the winds going around, you're going to have a lot of water being pushed in there. Plus, like I was saying earlier, I heard that there is king tide down there. You're also, depending on when this happens, the exact timing, could have high tide. Plus the winds pushing the waves in. So there's going to be a lot of storm surge on that part of the storm. Now there'll be less coming around because it'll actually be pushing out. So depending on where this thing tracks, I mean, if it goes down to hit Miami, north of Miami is going to get nailed. But what's really going to hurt, and I really hate this, I really do, this is going to be nasty. Between that dot and that dot, the first one is 140 mile per hour. The second one, even after being on land, is 75. So that's Cat 1. And that's only a 24-hour period. That's how long that thing is going to be in that area. 24 hours. Can you imagine getting those strong winds, the strong surge, all that flooding and everything, and it's going to last for 24 hours in the same spot? Okay, NHS official statement. Unfortunately, I don't see any large-scale factors that would prevent Dorian. No, there's nothing. There's no wind shear. There's bathtub water. Is that warm? There's no real land. I mean, it's going to hit these northern part of the Bahamas, but they're not big enough to affect this thing. There's nothing going to slow this thing down. Nothing. The only thing that's going to slow it down is when it hits landfall in Florida. So that's all I got a chance to gather for you. Like I say, the models haven't updated, even though they updated the cone. Yeah, Florida hang tight. Now, as this thing gets physically bigger, you know, this cone is suggestion for where the eye is going to go. If this thing happens to get 200 miles across it, and that center hits at Melbourne, Miami's still going to get it. Orlando is still going to get it. It's slowing it at this point. I was really hoping that it would speed up before it got up close to there, because the longer it stays out there in them warm waters, the stronger it's going to get. But that squeeze plate between the high and the low, and that trough coming down, that's kind of what's being the factor on the speed when it gets up there. Why is it going so slow down? Well, I don't know. I wish it would speed up. Give Nathan a chance to get down there to it. Plus, it wouldn't be quite as strong. If it would speed up and get to Florida sooner, it would be a little weaker than what they're planning on. So, any questions? Man, she's looking so much better, even than what it did when I did my 7 o'clock this morning. But as always, I'll know a lot more in the morning. I don't know if I'll be able to do a broadcast. Now, like I was telling everybody earlier, instead of every 3 hours, the updates are coming every 6. Once it gets near the Bahamas and they start putting out watches and warnings, I'll start getting the updates every 3 hours again. Thanks, Slayer. I've been doing this for a few years. At first, it was only on Zello. I didn't do a whole lot of live streaming, and that's because at that time, Severe Studios was the only good place to stream, and the owner of the company would not let me do it because I wasn't a storm chaser. Yeah, Michael did, and this one's going to. Yeah, this one's definitely going to get stronger. Its whole trip to Florida is just getting bigger and bigger. Uh, I'm going to look at something. Come to think of it, look at this first dot here. Hey, thanks for the bits. Appreciate that. Every little bit really helps me to be able to bring this to you. This is at 8 o'clock in the morning. They're expecting it to be 115 mile per hour winds with 140 gusts. So that shows you right there that's going to be getting stronger over the night. I try to give the correct information, and then sometimes I'll throw my 2 cents worth in there. Like the other day when I said I really felt like it was going to speed up. This damn thing made me look like a fool. It's slowing down. I don't know it all, and I don't pretend to. I'm still learning, believe it or not, folks. Yeah, if you all want to get in a bit war, go right ahead. Yeah, I've actually got Flight Simulator installed, and I'm going to play with it if I have time uh, for this hurricane. There is one guy that I follow here on Twitch. Thank you, thank you. And he has a real simulator uh, in his condo. And it's a full motion simulator. I mean, this thing moves around and everything, and it's got the real dash and all the real panels. Thanks. From a Boeing 737. I mean, it's as realistic as you can get. Yeah, Nico. DAL 213. Thanks, Mons, for hosting. Yeah, that full motion simulator. And I got a hold of him a few days back and told him to fly into Barbados. And that's when it was getting really strong and hitting there because he loves to fly through bad weather on that simulator. 1,500 bits. Holy cow. Thanks, Dave. That's just crazy. Thanks, man. Thanks, Dave, for sharing with everybody in the chat. That is cool. See, for you people not being in the chat, you could have got some rewards from Dave. So again, for anybody just joining, this is a Cat 2 hurricane now. $25 or $6 to 4. A group called Chicago. I went and heard them live. My very first concert that I ever went to. Wow, another 500. Thank you. Sharing that with 10 people in the chat. That's cool, man. Now, y'all over on YouTube, you're missing out on this. Yes, I do believe. I can't say for sure till it gets a little bit closer, Terry. Saturday morning, I would think they should be able to get out of there. I don't know. Let's look at something here. I want to look at the earliest reasonable arrival time of the tropical storm force winds. Yeah, it doesn't look like they're going to hit Bermuda on the tropical storm force winds until Saturday, 8 o'clock at night. Oh, I've been to South Texas many times. I used to go to Mexico for vacation, and no, not Cancun. I went down 8 hours south of the border, out in the middle of nowhere, cute little town. And I used to go through either Laredo or Brownsville, Texas. But then it got nasty down there, and so I won't go back to Mexico anymore. So anyway, the question was Saturday morning, will they be able to get out of Miami airport? Yes. So far, it looks like it'll be okay. Most likely, yes. I do believe there will be mandatory evacuations up and down the coast. Again, that FloridaDisaster.org, that is an evacuation zone map to tell everybody what group they're going to be in. And the way they do that down there is they'll have different zones, zone A, zone B. Naturally, zone A is going to be where the worst part's going to be. They'll be the first to be told to evacuate. Then they'll go to zone B, C, and so forth. So you can check out that website. There may not be anything on there just yet because it's still far away. How you doing, Josh? But since they're putting those websites out there for Georgia and Florida, they are most likely planning for evacuations. Again, here's that information. Oh my God, I haven't heard of Freddie Fender in a while. And as you can see here, my next update is not going to be until 5 a.m. There's not going to hardly be anybody on. So I probably won't do that. And like I was saying a little while ago, they did away for now the 8 a.m. But I might go ahead and broadcast anyway if I happen to still be awake. I might do a 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. And then the next one after that would be 11 o'clock in the morning. I'll definitely do that one. Now that one I might be a little late. I might be more closer to 11:30 before I can do it, because they bring my meal somewhere between 11 and 11:30. Now if I happen to get the info before 11 o'clock, which sometimes I do, I'll go ahead and do it right at 11. Yeah, I hope Miami's radar site stays up. Florida's kind of weird for radar down there too. But I'll keep you all informed as much as I can. So with that, folks, I think I'm going to go ahead and call it. I can't seem to find out anything new just yet. Why did they spread out the advisory? Because it's not affecting any landmass right now. So they've been flying into it all day long with different planes and jets and just gathering as much information as they can. But once it gets close to the Bahamas and it's, starts needing watches and warnings, they'll come right back out with every 3-hour updates. And that looks more like probably starting around sometime Saturday, they'll probably go back to 3 hours. Yeah, Miami's up. It's been up. Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead and call it. I might see you at 8 o'clock in the morning. If not, I will be on somewhere between 11 and 11:30. So y'all have a good night, and we'll catch you on the next broadcast.